This of we heritage that we bania. This of we heritage because that we live here. So I want to welcome everyone to my presentation today called Representation Matters, the Importance of Local Participation on Archaeological Projects in Belize.
This stuff we heritage that we value.
Now, for those of you who may not know where Belize is, as you can see on the map, Belize is located in Central America and the Caribbean. Belize is a fairly small nation, just over 400,000 people, many languages spoken. It is multi-ethnic, and Belize is largely known in archaeological terms because of the sites that we have, the archaeological reserves that are open for tourism, that are absolutely beautiful and spectacular. What a lot of people don't know, particularly people of Belize, is that there are many sites across the entire country, and many of these sites have had projects working at them in the past and continue to do so. As you can see on the screen, those are only some of the sites that people have worked at in the past, and of course, some of them people are still working at. I believe in the past, and perhaps maybe in some places it still carries on, where archaeologists who come to Belize to work view the local communities as a reservoir of cheap labor to come and move buckets and for no more. They're not really seen as consumers of knowledge of their own past. And we can see how this is manifested in different conferences that are put on, articles that are written, books that are written in such a way that makes it difficult for the local populace to understand because of the heavy archaeological jargon. Currently, however, I think more and more archaeologists are starting to realize that the archaeological remains of a nation are an important part of the community's cultural heritage. And so a lot of the projects that work in other parts of the world see it as being of importance to engage with the community members to expose them to the archaeological work that takes place. So what I present to you today comes from field work that took place at the site of Shenantonage by Galen students from Belize working along with the Belize Valley Archaeological Reconnaissance. So these are my sources. Everything that I present today comes from interviews that took place with these students and workmen and volunteers. In the interviews that I had with them, there were some topics that emerged, some of them that were good, some of them that were a bit distressing. For example, topics such as having a lack of knowledge of projects in Belize, lack of visibility of Belizeans in archaeology, and Belizeans feeling like the other when it comes to archaeological projects. But also, on a more positive note, that the students felt a deeper connection to their history and to their culture, and also a deeper responsibility and pride in their own cultural heritage. I believe that when you present some of the more troubling findings of community archaeology, you are being more honest in the work that you do. What is true is that most of the stories that are documented when it comes to community work and community engagement are the success stories, and there seems to be a lack of an actual audit on how these projects work. So when it comes to the lack of knowledge of projects in Belize, um, most of the students that I spoke to had no idea in the past that archaeological projects in Belize were a thing, and if they knew that project existed, they did not think that they could be involved, like they were going to be held at arm's length. There was a common thread of no knowledge of sites existing beyond those that are open for tourism. And someone actually said, I thought it was all dug up, that no project existed whatsoever. And one young lady actually said that she had no idea that participating on a project was an option until she got to university. On the screen, what you see are three direct quotes from some of the students that I interviewed and how they viewed Belizean visibility in archaeology. All they saw in magazines and in TV were foreigners, predominantly white people who had come in to do the work, to do archaeology. The white people were the experts. In primary school and high school, whenever archaeology came up, if at all, they were told that foreigners come to Belize to excavate. And what they learned was that by working on these projects, that there are many qualified Belizeans who work alongside the foreigners and in some cases having more knowledge and more experience. But whenever you see um, Belizean archaeology being presented in the media, it is the white person that is there with the clipboard and they are dressed as an archaeologist. They look different. And the ones who are getting dirty, the ones who are doing the heavy work, they look like us. They look like Belizeans. One young lady actually said that she just thought that archaeologists were at sites just to come and loot. Beyond the capacity of knowledge and being visible, quite a few of my students felt othered. Um, they recall being at the Belize Archaeology Symposium and not fitting in because they didn't understand what was being said. The archaeological language was just way too dense. There was even an experience where tour guides assumed at Shenandoah that the Belizean students were not students at all, and as you can see the quote that I have on screen, the one young lady said it made her feel invisible. But it's not just there that they feel invisible because there was also no representation of them on the project social media. And I asked them this, and they were like, "Yeah, we would go home and check the Instagram and Facebook every single day to see if maybe we were posted, if there was a picture of us, and there was nothing there." And one of them said quite, bluntly that, we're doing the same work and we matter as well. I mean, the B in the name of the project stands for Belize. But it's not all bad news. There is some good that came from the Belizean students participating on this project, and that they felt a connection not just to the site but also to the artifacts. They had a deeper understanding and appreciation for Belizean history before the coming of the Europeans, and felt that Belizeans have to be involved in the telling of our own history, that we can do the archaeological work ourselves, and that we can start to break down these established barriers that are put in place largely by academia, and to uplift our own people with better representation.
This stuff with heritage, we live here.
Um, when it comes to Belizean heritage, one of the things that I always talk about in classes here in Texas is that we are a nation that is comprised of many cultures and many ethnicities, but we also largely see ourselves as one people. At least that's something I like to believe, where we are under the umbrella of Belize first, and then everything else comes secondary to that. So participating on a project like this, when you have many different cultures and ethnicities coming together to work together, it is the very definition of our Belizean heritage. An important part of working on these kinds of projects is the pride that it gives you in towards your own cultural heritage. My student Celine comes from the south of Belize, where there is still that internalized stigma of Maya heritage, and she felt it herself, where she internalized her own stigma and had no interest in learning about the food, the history, the clothing, about any of it. But one day when she was digging, she found a spindle whorl, and that changed her entire perception, not only about what archaeology is, but just how archaeology can help you connect to your own history. There's something that happens to a young person when they participate on a project, when they find artifacts and they're able to connect not only to the site but to the pieces that they're finding, and how much it changes how they view themselves culturally, how they view themselves ethnically, and how they view themselves in relation to Belizean cultural heritage. That sentiment of connection to the site and to the artifacts is something that has been echoed by many of the students and young Belizeans that I interviewed, having a connection, something deeper to what we're digging, because we do live in Belize. It is our country, and the archaeological remains are also part of our history. The whole point of this presentation is just to show that representation helps a lot. These young Belizeans are working in a field that is largely of a foreign pursuit, and their participation tends to be largely overlooked. But sometimes all you need is a post, a shout out, a highlight of Belizeans doing the work, so other Belizeans who are out there can realize that something like archaeology is also within their grasp. Some people may argue it's just a post, it's just a picture, it doesn't matter, but it does to the ones who are doing the work. It is, and it matters to those who are social media consumers. Highlighting Belizeans is important. It can be a very good selling point for your project, that you are engaging with communities. And why not highlight the Belizeans who are working on your project? Because this is their heritage that the projects come to dig. They live in Belize. This is the heritage that they are living. And to show that not only foreigners care about archaeology in Belize, but that Belizeans do care and that they can also do it. So to wrap this up, the whole point of this is that representation matters. A single picture, a single post goes a long way in decolonizing archaeology in Belize by showing many Belizeans out there that Belizeans can do the work and are doing the work. One of my students, she said that when a local school had come by to the site and were talking to them, that these kids were surprised that Belizeans do the work at all, but she felt like she appreciated that the group had come by to see Belizeans in action, and this brings about awareness.
This is the we heritage. That we live here. Do like this though.
So just to close on this, with that quote once again that I got from Akira, this is who we heritage, that we live here. Just want to say a big thank you to everyone that helped make this possible. Bivar, Galen, my friends here at Texas State, the Belizean students, volunteers, workers, but also most importantly to the Heritage Education Network for putting on this really, really wonderful conference. Thank you.